Real fast, second channel video just dropped. It's about how to start watching sumo wrestling. Go check it out. I think it turned out pretty great. During spoiler season, there have been many times where a card will make commander players go wild. It could be a card that makes people salty, or something players think is overpowered. But after almost every spoiler season, those cards end up being mid to bad. I find this anomaly interesting. I appreciate brewing and believing in a new card that just got printed, but I find players misevaluate cards quite a bit. In this video, I want to talk about some of the common reasons behind Commander players misevaluating cards, and hopefully you can use that to help yourself later during next spoiler season. But first, if you want to get one of these Trinket Mage treasure tokens, you can do so by going to Cool Stuff Inc. and using my code TTM at checkout, plus you get a discount. Or use my code TTM at Dragon Shield for a discount, and both of those support the channel. In Casual Commander, almost any card can be strong in context. With the right setup, you can get value out of just about anything. Mirkwood Bats, for example, can do a lot of stuff with the right setup. It's one example a few people got worked up about, and indeed this can do a ton of damage. If you make a lot of treasures or creatures with a way to sacrifice it, Mirkwood Bats represents a ton of damage. Bootlegger's Stash is another card like this. People went crazy when this card got spoiled. Look at how much it was selling for. I remember people calling for it to get banned. And when you play this with Academy Manufacturer and a Seedborn Muse, it can go crazy and basically win the game. But if we look at these situations, yeah, if you have some of the best synergy pieces in play combined with these cards, they are strong. No duh. But how consistently can you assemble this? And if we compare these three cards to any other 3-card synergy piles, is it actually more powerful? Just look at the Water Crystal. It mills a lot, but Buvak can already mill your entire deck with one other card. Or Jumbo Cactuar. It's basically player death touch. But so is Flage and Blightsteel, and this has no keywords, so it needs more support to even get past an 0-1 plant token. This is what players sometimes call Magical Christmas Land, where you draw all the cards you would ever need and nobody disrupts you, and you are not pressured to play off curve or have to use removal. These are the reasons synergy cards are never actually that scary, because outside of Magical Christmas Land, many of these literally do nothing on their own. In Commander, it's very difficult for a synergy card to become a staple or problematic card, especially because any removal will make the whole system fall apart. But what about cards that don't require synergy? I remember Elish Norn, Mother of Machines, Sword of Wealth and Power, Evendo Walking Haven, and the Walls of Ba Sing Se all being fairly hyped up. Yet none of these ended up actually being problematic. Part of this is the cards are just straight up bad. Like Wall of Ba Sing Se is 8 mana, and for that much, you could just win the game, really. Sword of Wealth and Power's protection from instants and sorceries isn't that strong. Ultimately, your creature still gets swept up in a Wrath, and it can be targeted by abilities from other cards. Additionally, unlike the other swords, that protection doesn't help you get past blockers. Plus, there are easier ways to make treasures and copy spells. Sure, Sword of Wealth and Power is good in a deck that can equip it to an evasive creature, wants to copy spells, and isn't running the easier ways to do that for whatever reason. Although, how many decks even meet that requirement? The card is simply quite mid. Ultimately, the answer to most cards in the game is to play more removal. There are cards in the game like Dockside or Thassa's Oracle which are not susceptible to normal removal, and why these are game changered or banned. There are some powerful instants and sorceries which can't be interacted with by most colors. Additionally, some cards like the One Ring have built-in protection, making the amount of interaction that works on them way smaller. If a card does not have one of these qualities to help it avoid interaction, it is simply much weaker. Cards generally fall into 3 categories: standalone value, synergy enablers, or synergy payoffs. Of course, they can overlap sometimes. Synergy cards can often be more powerful than standalone generic value pieces because of their synergy. Skull Clamp, for example, is a synergy piece and is very powerful. But of course, it does nothing without other creatures to attach the clamp to. But the reason Clamp is powerful is not just because it draws cards, it's because putting creatures in play, especially those with 1 toughness, is an extremely easy thing to do. How many cards are there that give you a 1 toughness creatures for free or for doing anything? Because of that, Skull Clamp is extremely consistent, despite it needing synergy to operate. Sticking with the token theme there, the ease of making tokens makes these decks very consistent as well. So any payoff for a token strategy is actually going to be much more powerful because there are so many enablers for it. When people think about new cards, they oftentimes think of the best case scenario. It's why people fill their decks with so many win more cards that fumble as soon as interaction hits them. But unless that payoff requires a low barrier to entry, like making tokens, then it might be pretty difficult to actually consistently get that card working. This type of synergy consistency issue always happens whenever somebody tells me about an unfun deck they ran into, and the player tells me about how reassembling Skeleton, Ashnod's Altar, and Grave Pact kept the board clear of creatures the whole game, and nobody could play anything ever. But to me, I always hear 3 players did not include enchantment removal, artifact removal, or graveyard hate in their decks. Synergy piles are strong, and with redundant pieces, can be difficult to beat. But if you lose to them all the time, then maybe you're not playing enough interaction or card draw. So when you look at a new synergy piece, try and think about the ways that it can be interacted with before drawing the conclusion that it is unbeatable when all these other pieces are in play. Another crucial thing players miss out on all the time is comparing new cards to old ones. We have a lot of powerful things you can already do in EDH right now. I like using Niv Mizzet and Curiosity as a good baseline for combos. When some card comes out that can lead to a combo, players will talk about it. Like this is something to be worried about? To be clear, it is fine to mention something can combo or talk about brewing it in a combo deck. I'm more focused on people who are alarmist about these things. If we compare Niv Curiosity to any combo involving new cards, let's say Jumbo, Cactuar, and Fling, what is stronger? Well, Niv can be in your command zone, giving that consistency. It is uncounterable, slightly reducing the amount of interaction you can use against it. Additionally, Curiosity is 1 mana and has multiple redundant pieces. And then you really only need to draw a card or cast any instant or sorcery to win the game from there. And yet, after many years of this combo being in the game, it is not ban-worthy. It is a powerful thing you can do, but it is totally fine and reasonable within casual games, especially at slightly stronger tables. So why would Cactuar Fling, which costs more mana and is less efficient and less consistent and more easy to disrupt, be an issue? Sword of Feast and Famine will generate more mana than Wealth and Power does, probably with one singular activation. Plus, the protection on Feast and Famine helps the creature connect, and with that extra mana that it gives you, you can just cast 2 spells, or whatever you want to copy and a copy spell. It's actually pretty difficult for a card to become a best-in-class staple with 30 years of other cards competing in that category with it. This is why unique effects are actually much more likely to become powerful staples in certain decks, like that Turtle Lord effect from TMNT. Besides Spider-Ham, there is not a Turtle Lord effect like this, so Turtle Power is the best-in-class card for that. Additionally, comparing mana values of old and new effects are a great way to see the rate of a new card. Mana doublers should probably be compared to Mirari's Wake, which doubles mana for a fairly low cost. If your new mana doubler costs more than that, you have to have a good reason to play it over the old one. Tutors in black should be rated against Demonic Tutor as being the baseline best option. Of course, mana efficiency is just one piece of the puzzle in determining how good a card is for your deck. Sometimes, paying a premium in mana can be worth it due to extra flexibility. Scour for Scrap is overcosted when compared to Fabricate as an artifact tutor, but it does have additional utility like being instant speed and having a secondary function. In many decks, Scour for Scrap might be more powerful than Fabricate even though it costs more mana, so use mana value as a comparison with a grain of salt. One other reason players tend to overestimate cards is a lack of understanding card advantage. Card draw is criminally underrated in Commander. It's not flashy, it's not glamorous, and it's not part of your theme usually, so the vast majority of Commander players don't play enough of it. And the thing about do-nothing synergy cards is that they are often card disadvantage. If you don't have the complementing pieces to make these cards work, they are functionally dead cards. An Academy manufactor is really bad without something to trigger it. and that means you have now lost out on cards by filling your deck with synergy payoffs and not enough enablers to go with it. A 4-card value engine could be powerful, but it is much more consistent to have 4 cards that individually provide value. Depending on the list, it might even be more powerful to have that inherent consistency. The number of cards required to set up some of these win more pieces often requires more resources than that deck can provide. One thing I want to make clear about this video is I'm not saying don't play these cards. That was a double negative. Is that confusing? You should play these cards. Because Magical Christmas Land is fun. I think cards like Bootlegger's Stash or Mech Titan Core are perfect cards for EDH. They do crazy, wild things, assuming you can put the pieces together. And that is challenging. Creating extra mini challenges for decks to do and put together these wacky value engines is really what you should be doing in casual Commander. Players are wrong that these cards are strong or problematic, but they are not wrong about the cards being fun. I encourage you to build around Displaced Dinosaurs, Meek Attack, or Enigmatic Incarnation. It's a fun, exciting deck building challenge and extremely enjoyable to pull off. I think players overestimate cards usually because they only see the peak of what they can do and not the floor of what happens when things go wrong. Players will often not account for what happens when they get disrupted. Additionally, many players often don't know what other powerful options are out there. This might be their first time seeing a card that can instantly take a player out of the game, and because of that, they react in such a way that it sounds like they're saying this is a crazy powerful thing, even though in practice, it's not any stronger than anything we've had in the past. A lot of times on online discourse, a lot of nuance is lost in terms of what the player talking about it actually knows. There are a lot of new players playing Commander and getting into it for the first time. We shouldn't be surprised if a Final Fantasy player is playing Magic for the first time and thinks Jumbo Cactuar instantly killing somebody is a crazy thing. Overall, when you're evaluating cards, think about what other cards exist already and what resources are needed to make that new card actually function. And then think about how powerful it is from there. Casey asks, do you think there's value in playing other people's decks? I think the answer is it depends. Now, of course, if you think that there is somebody playing a deck that is unbeatable or overpowered or something, maybe it is useful for you to borrow it and see if it is. Maybe there is a skill gap that is actually affecting that, or oftentimes you can see the weakness of a deck when you play it. It's very easy to see the blue player cast a counter spell at the right time and go, oh, that Baral deck is broken. But unless you play Baral, you don't see the times where your opponent casts something and you top deck the counterspell next turn and realize it's completely useless. That creature is going to bash you in. On the other hand, for me, I don't really find value in playing other people's decks. I've played the game for a long time, so testing out other strategies is something that I'll either do on my own or I've probably already done. And I like building my decks in really specific ways. So I don't really get value out of playing some other random list. That's why I don't really like playing precon decks. It's, they're not built the way I like to build decks. Good question though, I liked it. Thank you so very much for watching. If you want to ask questions like this or be in the credits like my tier 3 patrons here, click the link below.